So at this point, I'm going to bring up Brother Del Rico Gales to introduce our keynote speaker for today. Brother Gales, give him a big round of applause.
Well, with protocol being established, good afternoon, brothers and guests.
Good afternoon.
This is truly an honor and privilege for me to introduce the keynote speaker for this afternoon. If I may, for a few moments, take a personal privilege before I read the bio of our special guest. Brothers, I often wondered, what it would be like to spend time talking to the founders and observing their interactions with the brothers in Omega. And over the years, I've met thousands of brothers in many different settings, but I realized that there was something special about this one brother. And I observed Dr. Ray for 37 years, and my interactions with him as an undergraduate, which wasn't always positive, and a district representative has been nothing but uplifting. And I believe that he is the closest I will ever get to meeting a brother who represents the founders at the highest level. He walks among kings and never loses his common touch. He lives the four cardinal principles and is a shining beacon of light to the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Now, before I share Dr. Ray's bio, I don't think I'll be standing right here if it wasn't for Dr. Ray. And I will publicly say, and a lot of brothers know, I got into some trouble years ago not being in line with Omega. And Dr. Ray was the one that issued the disciplinary action, but he also gave me uplift and told me what I needed to do to get back on track. So, and I adhered to his advice, and here I am. So about this great brother, Dr. Ray. Dr. Andrew A. Ray was born in Centralville, Mississippi. He began his formal education in a two-room school and completed his elementary and secondary education in the New Orleans, Louisiana public school system. Dr. Ray achieved academic distinction by winning the bronze and silver medals in statewide competitions while graduating in the top 20 in a class of 395. His post-secondary education includes a bachelor's degree in economics, 3 master's degrees, and a PhD. He demonstrates a lifelong commitment to learning through his studies and internship of 13 colleges and universities that include Yale, American University, Loyola, Wisconsin, the University of Ghana, and the University of California. Dr. Ray had the privilege of being selected as a Foreign Affairs Scholar in the Department of the State and a Presidential Fellow in the United States Congress in Washington, D.C. His professional experience includes work in industry, education, community, and government service. Now, I have a list of the honors that Dr. Ray received, and I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to give you a minimum of 20, okay? So, bear with me. He's the 39th Grand Basileus of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, the New York State Proclamation for Distinguished Community Service, the John W. Thompson Masonic Community Leadership Award, a Charles Drew Fellow, the Martin Luther King Award, the Omega Man of the Year for Rochester, University Church Ministries Man of the Year, Charles D. Lunsford Distinguished Community Service Award, and that's from the Urban League, Rochester Schools Parent Advisory Council Service Award, Outstanding Teacher of the Year Award in Rochester, Outstanding Administrator of the Year Award in Rochester, Educator of the Year of 6 organizations, Metropolitan Women's Network Community Service Award, over 24 additional hours, Alpha Kappa Alpha Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated Charles Bank Humanitarian Award, the City of Rochester Board of Education Gate Opener Award for Service to Humanity, the Grant Reynolds Award of Courage, the 2013 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Humanitarian Award, and Christian Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church, the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority 20 Pearls Foundation, Everyday Hero for outstanding service in 2014. I'm almost there, y'all. 2014, the Community Service Champion Award, Ada Pi Chapter, and Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated Bridge Builder Award. Now that's 20, I'm gonna give you 2 more. The initiator of the Omega Psi Phi becoming the first Divine Nine organization to be a sponsor for the National Museum of African American History in Washington, D.C. We gave $1 million. And the Black Heritage Pioneer Award of the City of Rochester. Brothers and guests, let me present to you one of Omega's most precious gems, 39th Grand Basileus, Dr. Andrew Ray.
I'd rather be a man who failed than to be one who's never tried. I'd rather have attempted the mountaintop than to merely have just stood aside. Let me hold my lofty dream. Let me take my challenging flight. For even if I should fail, I will know I tried to do what's right. Oh, I'd rather have failed and fallen in sorrow and despair than to have just stood in a place all safe and secure and never have faced a care. Some may try and label me with the failure brand, and some may even sneer at me. But my God will always know the man I tried to be. Good evening. Good evening. First of all, Del Rico, you done good. And there's a lesson there. Don't give up if you can make a difference. He was in a little difficulty, but now he's the leader of the district. And there's another man here with the same bio, Brother Ben Jeffers. The DR appointed me quarter rep when I was about 24, 25 years of age. Just coming to New York. He said, go up to Syracuse. I'm getting some calls that something is going on. I got there, and something was going on. The frat house resembled the Michael Jackson Thriller house.
On Comstock.
On Comstock, so let's see, on Comstock. Say, shutters hanging off. I opened the door, and certain smoke hit me. I could get into the house. I had to feel around to find a light socket because you couldn't see anything in there. I got everybody to stop what they were doing. And I won't go into it because we have ladies here, so I won't say any more. But what was going on all over the place? Ben was the chief leader. I got everybody to stop except him. I walked over behind him and I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, you said, stop this. And he turned around, I can't say the ladies in the room, but he said, who in the are you? So the DR sent me here, so I'm going to suspend this whole chapter, I'm throwing it off the campus. A few weeks later, we were in St. Louis. I was walking across the lobby. I was going to see the DR to present suspension and expulsion for the whole chapter. Who walks in the door with Ben? I thought he was a homeless man. Disheveled, sweaty. I said, Jeffers. He said, yeah. How'd you get here? said, I hitchhiked. You hitchhiked from Syracuse to St. Louis? He said, yeah. He said, how'd you get here? He said, because during that time, if your chapter missed 2 national meetings, that's right, headquarters suspended you, you out of business. So all he had was a check to pay the chapter registration. That's all he had. I said, where you staying? He said, I don't know. My heart changed right there. I said, this boy hitchhiked all the way to St. Louis to save his chapter. There must be some good in it. So I fed him for a whole week. Hamburgers and french fries. That was a delicacy back then. She was 18 years old, so, you know, hamburgers and french fries, that was a delicacy. So he was good. And the brothers from Pittsburgh, Penn State, let him stay there for a week. So that was a lesson. Years later, I called on him. We were putting the chapter at Cornell University. And I said I wanted him to be the advisor. And brother said, are you crazy? You want Ben to be advisor at Cornell? Do you know about him? I said, yeah, I know about him. I met with him, and we talked. And from the day he became advisor, he never turned back. He became one of Omega's very positive men. Yeah. He did. So, and just recently, at the district meeting, he's advised the Kappa chapter, the chapter he was initiated in. And this brother is chapter of the year, academic chapter of the year at Syracuse. And 3 years, he was chapter of the year, highest GPA of any fraternity on Syracuse campus. All from somebody who I was about to throw out the door. But we found something in them, just as Brother Del Rico was saying. And therein lies a lesson, my brothers. If you can see the good in a person, especially our young folks, work with the good. Because the good can overwhelm the negative. I found that to be a winning formula. Let me just share a few items with you, because here in this chapter bio, you very seldom need any direction in terms of what you should do. I was with Brother Brown earlier today, and Brother Brown said, just hang with me. You get to eat first. He said, just stick with me, brother. Stick with me. Brother Brown is also a man of his word. So I met 3 good men here today who spoke, and their word was good. But let me just share some things with you. First of all, I bring you greetings from the International Body of Omega. And I'll tell you this. I'm the first Grand Basileus who had never been a Grand Officer. And brothers, you know how Omega politics work. I wasn't a Grand anything. And so brothers wonder how in the world you're going to win an election internationally. You've never been a Grand Officer. There were 5 persons in the field. 2 of them were sitting Grand Officers. And we won the election, thanks to Brother Kenny Rogers, for Del Rico, because he was DR then. And we worked it. But we did find one Grand Basileus who said, a past Grand, he said, Brother Ray, how do you think you're going to lead this organization? You've never been any Grand, anything. And my religious leanings from Mississippi said, I said to him, I said, my brother, you're right, I've never been a Grand Officer. Let me put it this way, my brother, I've never been the drum major, but I've always been in the band. I said, my understanding is, if everybody plays their instrument well in the band, you contribute to the melodious sound of the band. And I've always been in the band. The DR walked me to the door, the DR of that district. He said, Brother Ray, I can promise you got our vote. One of the largest districts. So we won going away by with almost 400 votes in the international election. Almost 400 votes. So from that I learned even more. Sometimes it's not, as Brother Ben would say, the great philosopher, sometimes it's not the mail you get, it's the mailman who delivers it. So keep that in mind, my brothers, as you march through your work here in the Jersey area. Let me share a few things with you. I was pleased to sit next to Brother Brown and hear what you guys are doing with the young people here. All the mentoring you're doing, the kinds of things you're doing to make a difference with young people. One of the first things I did as Grand Basileus was to sign a proclamation, a MOU, with President Obama. I hadn't even left Raleigh before we got elected. But I signed that proclamation for the Fatherhood Initiative that I'm sure all of you are familiar with, because all of our districts are dealing with it. And that paid off handsomely, because later on, at our 100th anniversary in DC, I was on stage and Brother Ben was in his usual position. Arnie Duncan, the Secretary of Education, was there. And Ben was just doing this to me. I said, hold on. I walked over there to the stage. There was this brother, he was bigger than everybody in here. He was a big brother. Dr. Ray? I said, yes. He said, the president wants to see you. I said, what president? He said, President Obama. We went down to the basement of the convention center, and there was President Obama. He said, I wanted to personally come here to thank the men of Omega for what you have been doing and what you are doing, what I know you will do in helping the young men of this country. Well, I couldn't believe I was there, but proclamation was signed, but we didn't get it. Had to pull it back because of some negative things on the internet, and that's part of the message. Be careful what you put on social media. It stays there forever. It can impact you in so many ways. Your job, your social life. Be very careful what you put on social media. We almost had the first proclamation to be issued by the President of the United States. First warning, be careful. In your community collective here in Jersey, I don't have to tell you about what you need to do, because you are telling the community what's needed and what should be done. But I want to give you a few thoughts. One, learn to think carefully. Learn to hold your peace. I got that from Grandma. My grandmother never went to school at all, not even elementary school in Mississippi. But she told me this when I had to go to New Orleans. She said, baby, when you go to New Orleans, I want you to learn to hold your peace. I didn't know what she was talking about initially, but it meant to the folks then, be slow to anger. Think before you act. I was giving a speech with some boys in lockup, juvenile lockup. And I told them about holding their peace. And I shared with them something that happened to me. I grew up in the segregated South. Never went to school with white students at all. Everything was black. I found out later on in life my mentor was a Tuskegee Airman. I didn't know it at the time. But what I found out about holding your peace is the reason I'm standing here today. My grandmother told me what that meant. I was in the parades in New Orleans and we were following the Mardi Gras. But if you look like me, when you got to a certain street, you had to stop. Couldn't go any further. The parade could go, but you couldn't go. So I stopped when I saw the sign. My friend kept going. He went to the other side of the street. And the white officer on duty hit him. I thought he had killed him, knocked him out. He pulled his gun, he put it to my head and he spit in my face. He said, "You want to hit me, boy?" I said, "No, sir." "Yeah, hit me, boy. Go ahead and hit me." I said, "No, sir." God had to be with me that day. He put the gun back in the holster. He said, "You pick up that piece of trash and both of you get the hell out of here." I was telling the young brothers in lockup that. And one young brother said, "Oh man, you let him poke you like that? And you had a piece?" I said, "Young brother, I had P-E-A-C-E, not P-I-E-C-E. Because see, to the young brothers, a piece is a gun. Right. I said, if I'd acted like you, I wouldn't be here to tell you the story. Segregated South, I'm black, I've been another Emmett Till. I was smart enough to know that, thanks to Grandma. Another message for you this afternoon. I learned from Brother Jeffers. He was a track man. He was pretty fast in Syracuse. Went there on scholarship. Pretty fast now, but I ain't getting into that. But everywhere we would travel, all over the world, we'd watch the Pan Am games or whatever the track and field was. So the year we were traveling, America was scheduled to win it all. So out of the blocks, gone. Made the first handoff. Second handoff came. Made it. Got to the third handoff and they dropped the baton. That gave me an instant lesson. And I say this to every brother everywhere I go. Don't miss the handoff. Because see, if you ever miss the handoff, not only do you lose, the whole team loses. It's not a personal loss, the whole team loses. So what you men are doing here in Jersey, you're not missing the handoff, you're making the pass. That's a good thing. It'll be another Del Rico, it'll be another Ben Jeffers, what you men are doing here in Jersey. But keep that in mind for the community. Don't miss the handoff. Brothers, we have to perfect that handoff. Because don't forget, if you miss it, all of us will lose. Secondly, for those of you with sons, grandsons, granddaughters, daughters, don't be so busy giving your children what you didn't have till you forget to give them what you did have. A sense of purpose, a work ethic, tenacity. Don't give up. Keep pressing on. Another message for you. And I don't think the brother is here, I haven't seen him. Young brother picked us up at the airport. And the young brother who picked us up drove up here in a Porsche. Oh, said, God is alive. So he whisked us to the hotel. And the brother was very, very fluent. Sharp young brother. Good job, everything going on. So, I was pleased with that. But as we walked through our communities, Oftentimes, we find many of the brothers in our communities across this nation, they're parking their house on the street. You drive by and you see Mercedes 740 Beamer parked next to a $30,000 house. They're parking the house on the street. The car depreciates, property appreciates. We have to pass that lesson on to our young brothers. Just having the best car won't make it, unless you also have the best mind, the best discipline, the best thought process. Another message I want to leave with you. In life, there are dream makers, there are dream takers, and there are dream keepers. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Dream maker, dream keeper, because there's going to be enough elements out there to be dream takers. Another message I want to leave with you. Don't let the change in your zip code change your moral code. Remember, your zip code only says where your house is, not necessarily your whole heart. It's a physical location. It's a physical location. Your heart can be all over the community. You can live where you want. And live where you want. I like to do that too. I like good things in life too. But your heart, make sure it stays where it should be. Teach our young men especially. There's a big difference between being a male and being a man. Being a male is a gift of nature. Being a man speaks to your character. So many people are huffing and puffing. I'm a male. You're a male, but not necessarily a man. It's what you do, the way you live, the way you carry yourself. That determines if you're a man. You're a male by the mere fact of nature. But you're a man by what you do, what you live, what you contribute. And I'll share this with you, as I shared with Brother Ben and Brother Del Rico. I had a serious accident. They rushed me to the hospital and rushed me into emergency. The doctor came in and said, give me so many cc's of him and we're preparing for surgery. I'm laying on the gurney, I don't know what's going on. So they rolled me into the emergency to be operated on. The doctor walked in. He touched my shoulder. He says, Dr. Ray, don't worry, I got you. I said, what the hell is this? I'm heading there, you know, can't see anything. You know, the surgical lights are down on you. He pulled down the surgical mask. He's one of my former students. The first thing I said was, boy, suppose I treat this boy bad. There I am, you know, laying there. My life in his hand. I had a blood clot that was moving. And he was there. So from that I say to you, be careful how you treat people along the way, because you don't know when you might see them again. Be very careful how you treat people. So my walk in Omega has been a good one. I had the pleasure and the honor of sitting with 2 of our founders. At the time I had a huge afro. But working with Brother Ben took care of that. When you work in Omega, it was due. I had the largest afro in Omega. No question. We were at the conclave, in Denver. I had a purple dashiki on because I had just returned from Africa. Charles Dufell, I'm all proud. I had my African beads. At the time, you didn't have to have on a suit to be on the floor. So I ran up to the mic after we heard some bad news, and I said to Brother H. Carl Moultrie, who was running the meeting. All of you here, Mega Man, you know H. Carl. He said, "Brother, why are you at the mic?" I said, "Brother Chair, this fraternity needs leadership." He said, "And?" I said, "I nominated myself for Grand Basileus." I got 4 votes. I got 4 votes. And if you ever go to headquarters and look at the minutes of the Denver Conclave, I'm in there. I nominated myself for Grand Basileus on the conclave floor after we heard some bad news. But the lesson in that is, and I share this oftentimes, because it's one of our cardinal principles, perseverance. I nominated myself for Grand Basileus in 1979. In 2010, I'm the Grand Basileus. Perseverance. Don't give up. And finally, to the good brothers and community people who are here. I didn't make it alone. I spoke to you earlier about my grandma. But also, in the civil rights movement, we got caught up in a lot of things. I was arrested at 13. Didn't go to juvenile detention. Took us to the precinct. I called my mother. My bail was only $25. That was big money back then. She went to her supervisor and borrowed the money. Got me out. The next morning I went to pick up my childhood friend on the way to school. His brother came to the door and everybody in the house was crying. I said, "Where's Sonny? We're gonna be late for school." He said, "He's dead." Dead? I said, "What happened?" He said he hung himself in jail. Well, I knew that wasn't true. Because when we were arrested, they took everything out of the cell. Even the bedding. Sheets, man, everything. Nothing but the steel frame carpets there. Couldn't have hung himself with anything. If you had done the lucky thing to be arrested, they'd take the strings out of your shoes, your belt, everything. There was nothing to hang himself with. Went to the mortuary to see him before his final days. Before we stepped in the rest. His head was twice the size of a normal head. They beat him to death. And all I can think of, had my mother not come for me, that could have been me too. So a few years ago, my mother fell. She's a gospel singer. Didn't want to leave New Orleans. But I said, "Mom, I'm coming to get you." When I brought her there, my wife took care of her beautifully. And she always, every day, "I don't want to be a burden, I don't want to be a burden." And it just, I was almost in tears certain days because I said to her, when I couldn't help myself, you came to get me. I'm coming to get you. Don't forget the bridge that brings you over. In life, don't forget those people who stand with you. Don't forget those persons who gives you the advice. They're the same ones who may have to be looking at you like they looked at me. With a surgical mask on to save your life. And my brothers, I had that unique pleasure of working, sitting at the foot of Brother Love and Brother Cooper. I had a double pleasure because Brother Love's son, I read him into. But as we sat with the founders, Brother Love, Brother Cooper, they shared with us the difficulty they had in keeping this fraternity going. And one thing they asked us to do, they said, young brothers, we gave birth to this fraternity, but it's going to be your responsibility to keep it alive. They promise us you won't let the fraternity die. And at that moment, my whole life changed. And to this day, I work every day, travel wherever I have to go to help keep Omega alive. I want you to know, my brothers, that Omega's in a good place now, as just sharing with Brother Del Rico. We are now in a very good place because we didn't give up, we didn't quit, we kept the faith. And I say to you, the good work you're doing here, please continue to do it. Please continue to reach out for the young. Please continue to reach out for the elderly, because all across this country, in far too many cases, the elderly are burying their children. Grandparents are burying grandkids. It used to be that we would be there to see our parents till their final resting place. Now the parents have to see their children. All across this country, we're losing our young people. We have to be in the mind and hearts of our young people so they will be around for another generation. My brothers, the work that you're doing here at 8 of Pi is much needed work. It's great work. I will always be a brother you can count on for the lifeblood of this fraternity. But I know that you will continue to do the fine work that you do. And remember, I'm going to close here with a word from Dr. King, who was an earlier mentor of me in the movement. He traveled to Europe, and on the plane he said, the pilot said we're about 8 hours from touchdown in Europe. He finished his business and on the way back, landed in Atlanta. But he said on the way, the pilot had said 7 hours, and we're only 7 minutes, we'll be touching down in Atlanta. And Dr. King said as he was getting off the plane, he asked the pilot, he said, you said it was going to be 8 hours for us to go and 7 hours to come back. And the pilot said, Dr. King, on the way to Europe, we picked up a headwind, pushed us back on the plane. He says, on the way home, we picked up a tailwind. It pushes the plane forward. So I developed a saying that's on a lot of the stationery and pens I give out. Headwinds may slow your progress, but tailwinds will help you to recover. Look for the tailwinds in life, my brothers. Thank you.